You clicked on this video because you want to sleep better and lower your blood sugar, and I want you to know you made the right call. Because what we're going to talk about today is one of the most overlooked, most misunderstood pieces of the entire diabetes puzzle. It's not about a new medication. It's not about a stricter diet. It's about something you do every single night of your life, or at least something you're supposed to do: sleep. And once you understand what's really happening in your body while you're lying in that bed, nothing will ever look the same again. I want you to stay with me for the next few minutes, because I'm going to walk you through something that changed the way I think about blood sugar entirely. I've been right where you are. The frustrating mornings, the numbers that don't make sense, even though you did everything right the night before. The exhaustion that's hard to explain to anyone who hasn't lived it. I know what it feels like to follow every rule in the book and still feel like your body is working against you. If that resonates with you, then this video was made for you. Here's the question I want you to sit with, and I'll come back to it at the very end, because the answer surprised even me when I first learnt it. What if the reason your blood sugar isn't responding the way you expected has nothing to do with what you're eating? What if it's happening while you sleep, or rather, while you're not sleeping well enough? Stick with me. By the time we're done, you'll have a completely different picture of what's going on inside your body, and more importantly, you'll know exactly what to do about it. I've spent a long time researching this topic. I've gone through studies, clinical reviews, endocrinology journals, and conversations with people just like you who've been quietly struggling with this exact issue. And what I found is that the sleep-blood sugar connection is one of the most powerful levers any diabetic over 60 can pull. And almost nobody is talking about it the way it deserves to be talked about. So I synthesized all of that research into what I'm sharing with you right now. This video is the result of that work, and I want every minute of it to matter to you. Before we dive in, if you're finding this useful, take 2 seconds right now, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video, and give this a thumbs up. It genuinely helps more people like you find this content. And drop a comment below. Tell me what country you're watching from. I'd love to know where our community is tuning in from around the world. Hold on a second. Before we go any further, I've put something together for you. It's called the Glucose Paradox. It's a free guide on blood sugar and diabetes, and you can grab it for free through the link in the description. I'm telling you this now because I want you to finish this video with a concrete tool in your hands. To get it right away, just click the link in the description, head over to my site, and drop your email. You'll receive the guide in your inbox a few minutes later. But I don't want to take up any more of your time. Let's get back to the video. Let's start with something that took my breath away when I first read it. A single night of poor sleep, just one, can reduce your body's insulin sensitivity by up to 25%. 25%. Think about what that means in practical terms. You wake up after a rough night, and your body is suddenly a quarter less capable of doing what it's supposed to do with sugar. You could have eaten perfectly the day before. You could have taken your medication exactly as prescribed, and none of that matters, because what happened or didn't happen in those nighttime hours has already done its damage. Your pancreas is working harder, your cells are less responsive, and your glucose numbers reflect all of it. This isn't a minor inconvenience. This is biology. And once you understand the biology, everything else starts to make sense. When you sleep well, your body does something remarkable. It goes into a kind of deep maintenance mode. Hormones recalibrate, inflammation drops. The liver, which plays a massive role in blood sugar regulation, gets a chance to reset. Cortisol, the stress hormone that actively raises blood glucose, follows a natural overnight curve that brings it down to its lowest point in the early morning hours. Growth hormone, which helps repair tissues and regulate metabolism, surges during deep sleep. All of this happens quietly, invisibly, while you're resting, and all of it depends on you actually getting into those deeper stages of sleep. When sleep is disrupted, whether you're waking up repeatedly, struggling to fall asleep, or simply not getting enough hours, that entire cascade gets thrown off. Cortisol stays elevated longer than it should. Growth hormone secretion is blunted. The liver, instead of quietly managing overnight glucose output, starts overproducing it. This is one reason why so many people with diabetes wake up to high fasting numbers even after a careful evening. It's not what they ate, it's what their body did or failed to do while they were supposed to be sleeping. Now let me connect this to something even bigger, because sleep doesn't just affect your blood sugar in isolation. It affects every organ system in your body, and those systems all talk to each other in ways that ripple right back into your glucose control. Start with your heart. Poor sleep raises blood pressure. It keeps the sympathetic nervous system, the one responsible for the fight or flight response, in a state of low-grade activation. That constant low-level stress response tells your adrenal glands to keep pumping out cortisol and adrenaline. Both of those hormones tell your liver to release more glucose into the bloodstream. So your heart health and your blood sugar are speaking the same language, and sleep is the translator between them. Then there's your gut. The gut microbiome, the trillions of bacteria that live in your digestive tract, is exquisitely sensitive to sleep disruption. When you don't sleep well, the balance of those bacteria shifts. The strains that help regulate appetite hormones like ghrelin and leptin become less dominant. Ghrelin, the hormone that makes you hungry, goes up. Leptin, the hormone that tells you you're full, goes down. So the very next morning, after a bad night, you're hungrier, you're drawn to higher calorie foods, and your self-control is measurably diminished. This is not weakness, this is biochemistry. And it creates a cycle that makes managing your diet much harder than it needs to be. Your brain is part of this too. Sleep is when your brain clears out metabolic waste through the glymphatic system, a kind of internal pressure washing that happens only during deep rest. When this process is interrupted, night after night, cognitive fatigue builds up, decision-making becomes harder. The mental discipline that goes into managing a chronic condition like diabetes, tracking numbers, making food choices, staying consistent, requires a brain that has been properly restored. Chronic poor sleep erodes that capacity quietly, over time in ways that are easy to blame on other things. And then there's inflammation. This is perhaps the most invisible and most dangerous piece of the puzzle. Poor sleep is a powerful driver of systemic inflammation. Inflammatory markers like interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein rise with sleep deprivation. Chronic inflammation damages the insulin receptors on your cells, the tiny locks that allow glucose to enter and be used for energy. When those receptors are inflamed and dysfunctional, it doesn't matter how much insulin your pancreas produces, the door just won't open properly. This is insulin resistance at its most fundamental level, and sleep deprivation is one of its most reliable triggers. Understanding all of this made me realize that fixing sleep isn't just about feeling less tired. It's about giving your entire body, your heart, your gut, your brain, your immune system, and yes, your blood sugar, a fighting chance. So let's talk about what you can actually do. Because knowledge without action is just frustration, and you deserve better than that. The first thing, and I cannot stress this enough, is consistency in your sleep and wake times. Not just on weekdays, every single day, including weekends. Your body runs on an internal clock called the circadian rhythm, and that clock governs everything from insulin secretion to cortisol patterns to the timing of digestive enzymes. When you sleep at inconsistent times, you're essentially giving your body jet lag without ever getting on a plane. The clock gets confused, hormone release shifts out of sync, glucose regulation suffers. Choosing a fixed bedtime and a fixed wake time, and sticking to them with real commitment, is one of the most powerful things you can do, and it costs absolutely nothing. The second strategy involves your bedroom environment, and this is an area where small changes make a surprisingly large difference. Your body temperature needs to drop slightly in order to initiate and maintain deep sleep. A bedroom that is too warm interferes with that process. The sweet spot for most people is somewhere between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. If you've been sleeping in a room that's warmer than that, try bringing it down a few degrees and give yourself a week to notice the difference in how deeply you're resting. Darkness matters just as much. Even small amounts of ambient light from a street lamp outside, a charging light on a device, a hallway light under the door can suppress melatonin production and fragment your sleep architecture. Melatonin isn't just a sleep hormone, it also plays a role in glucose metabolism. When melatonin is suppressed, blood sugar regulation is affected. Blackout curtains are not a luxury. For someone managing diabetes, they're a legitimate health investment. The third strategy is one that most people have heard about, but genuinely underestimate: managing your exposure to blue light in the evening. The screens we stare at, phones, tablets, televisions, emit a wavelength of light that your brain interprets as daylight. It signals the pineal gland to stop producing melatonin. When this happens in the hour or two before bed, your body's preparation for sleep is blunted. You may fall asleep eventually, but the quality and depth of that sleep is compromised. Research has shown that people who use screens heavily in the evening have measurably higher fasting glucose levels the following morning. That connection between your phone at 9 o'clock and your blood sugar number at 7 the next morning is real. Putting the screens away, at least an hour before bed, is one of those things that sounds almost too simple to matter, but the biology tells a different story. The fourth area is your evening eating pattern. The timing of your last substantial meal has a significant effect on what happens to your blood sugar overnight. When you eat close to bedtime, your digestive system is still actively processing glucose and releasing it into the bloodstream during the early hours of sleep. Your liver is working to manage all of that incoming energy at exactly the time it should be going into its overnight reset mode. The practical guideline that works well for most people is to finish your last substantial meal at least 3 hours before bed. If you find yourself genuinely hungry closer to sleep, and for some people with diabetes, a very small snack is actually beneficial to prevent overnight glucose swings, then something small and protein-based is far better than carbohydrates. A small handful of walnuts, a hard-boiled egg, a little full-fat cheese. These foods stabilize blood sugar gently overnight, without causing the glucose spikes that would disrupt your rest. The fifth strategy is something that our culture tends to dismiss, but that I've come to believe is genuinely powerful. A deliberate wind-down routine. Your nervous system needs a signal that the day is ending. It doesn't know how to transition from high alertness to restful sleep on its own if you never give it the cue. A warm shower or bath about an hour before bed is one of the most evidence-supported sleep aids that exists. Not because of the warmth, but because of the rapid cooling that follows when you get out. That drop in skin temperature mimics the natural temperature drop your body uses to initiate sleep, and it can meaningfully shorten the time it takes you to fall asleep and deepen the stages you reach. Beyond that, activities like quiet reading, gentle stretching, a few minutes of slow breathing, or simply sitting in a dim room without screens give your nervous system permission to downshift. This isn't soft advice, it's physiology. The sixth strategy requires a little more honesty with yourself, because it asks you to look at whether there might be something actively disrupting your sleep that hasn't been properly addressed. Sleep apnea is enormously common among people over 60 and enormously underdiagnosed. If you snore heavily, if you wake up feeling unrefreshed, if your partner has ever noticed you stop breathing during the night, please take that seriously. Sleep apnea causes blood oxygen to drop repeatedly throughout the night, which triggers cortisol release and drives blood sugar up. Studies consistently show that treating sleep apnea leads to measurable improvements in glucose control, sometimes dramatic ones. Restless leg syndrome is another condition worth addressing if you experience that uncomfortable urge to move your legs in the evening. And if you're waking up frequently to use the bathroom, it's worth discussing with your doctor, because nocturia, that nighttime urination, can itself be a sign of blood sugar running too high while you sleep. Treating the root cause is always more effective than trying to sleep through the symptom. The seventh and final strategy is one that many people overlook because it seems to belong to the morning, not the night. But morning light exposure is one of the most powerful ways to improve your nighttime sleep, and here's why. Your circadian clock is set primarily by light. When you expose your eyes to natural sunlight within the first hour of waking up, by going outside, sitting by a window, or simply stepping onto a porch, you send a powerful signal to your brain that anchors the start of the day. That anchor, in turn, determines when your body will begin its natural wind down towards sleep, approximately 14 to 16 hours later. People who get morning light exposure consistently fall asleep more easily, sleep more deeply, and wake up with better glucose profiles. It is one of those interventions that is completely free, requires no equipment, and works with your biology rather than against it. Now, here is something I want you to hear clearly. because it changed the way I approached my own health, and I think it can change yours too. You do not need to implement all 7 of these strategies at once. In fact, I would strongly encourage you not to. When we try to change everything simultaneously, we tend to succeed at nothing. The right approach is to pick 1 or 2 of these, the ones that feel most accessible to you, the ones where you already suspect you have the most room to improve, and commit to them for 2 full weeks before adding anything else. Give your body time to respond. Give yourself time to build the habit, because here's what happens when you do. Better sleep leads to lower blood sugar, and lower blood sugar leads to better sleep. It is one of those rare situations in health where the intervention creates its own momentum. Once that cycle starts turning in the right direction, it tends to keep going. I've heard from people who made nothing more than a consistent bedtime their starting point, and within 3 weeks their morning glucose readings had dropped meaningfully without any change to their medication or diet. I've heard from others who addressed sleep apnea after years of dismissing it, and who described the metabolic improvement as feeling like a completely different body. The connections are real, the improvements are achievable, and you are not too old, and it is not too late. Most adults with diabetes do best with 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night. That's not a rough estimate. It's a range that shows up consistently in the research as the sweet spot where glucose regulation, insulin sensitivity, inflammation levels, and cognitive function all reach their optimal point together. Less than 6 hours, and the metabolic costs are measurable. More than 9 hours on a regular basis can also be associated with certain health risks. Though for most people, the problem runs in the other direction. 7 to 8 hours. It's a target worth taking seriously. What I want you to take away from everything we've covered today is this. Your blood sugar does not exist in isolation from the rest of your body. It is woven into every system: your sleep, your stress response, your gut, your heart, your brain, and sleep is one of the most powerful threads in that weave. When you protect your sleep, you are not just resting. You are actively managing your diabetes. You are giving your insulin a better environment to work in. You are lowering inflammation. You are resetting your hormones. You are giving your liver the overnight break it needs. You are doing something that no pill can fully replicate, and no diet can compensate for when it's missing. The mornings can get better. The numbers can improve. The exhaustion that has become so familiar, it almost feels normal, that doesn't have to be permanent. One good night leads to another. One better morning leads to a better day of choices. And slowly, that cycle builds into something that looks and feels like real recovery. And hey, if you made it all the way here, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Hit the like button to let me know this was worth your time. And leave a comment below. Tell me what country you're watching from. Seriously, I read every single one, and it means a lot to see how far this community reaches. You know what the problem is with diabetes and high blood sugar? Most people find out way too late, and by the time they do, they have no idea where to even start. That's why I decided to create a free guide. It's called the Glucose Paradox, and inside, you'll find everything you wish you'd known sooner. I'll explain how blood sugar actually works, and why your body sometimes reacts the exact opposite way you'd expect. That's why it's called a paradox. I've also included concrete habits you can start changing right now, even if you know zero about nutrition or medicine. It's free. You can download it in a second. And it might be the single most useful thing you do for your health today. Just click the link in the description to head to the site, drop your email, and get the guide sent straight to you. Don't put this off.